Wednesday, April 7th, 2021, Senate Education and Finance Policy Committee will come to order. Today, members, yesterday we walked through the Senate file, the K-12 file. I didn't remember the number of it. Help remind me there, Judy Donovan, what's the number? The bill.
960.
Thank you. There it is. Senate File 960, the Senate Education, Finance, and Policy Omnibus Bill. So today we'll be taking comments, discussion with the members for the next hour and a half or so. So with that, members, I am going to turn over the gavel. Senator Eichhorn, you have this thing.
Thank you, Senator Chamberlain. The bill's already been moved, so I guess we're just two amendments moving the amendment rather, the A1 amendment, and that is yours, Senator Chamberlain.
You might add, Senator, Mr. Marcus might have to confirm this, but I believe that that amendment was no longer necessary, a technical amendment.
No.
This is the omnibus delete all, Senator Chamberlain.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. So author's amendment, I'll move the A1 amendment. Thank you.
On Senator Chamberlain's motion to move the A1 amendment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Aye. The motion does prevail and the bill is in its order. Go ahead to the bill, Senator Chamberlain. I want to make any comments and I guess we'll open up for amendments and member discussion.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. So we had a walk through this bill yesterday morning. I'll just spend a minute or two just to remind people of what we have in front of us. Our goal, our position from the beginning in January has been to have kids first, second, third, last, and always in what we do and how we work here this year. You pile on top of that the results of the COVID shutdowns and other things. It's made life extremely difficult for our kids in school as well as for our educators. So our goal here was not to make people's lives more difficult, but to focus on kids, not on institutions, not on systems, not on lobbyists. All due respect, but the kids are the ones that we are attempting to educate. So with that in mind, going through this the last couple of months, was a simple formula. You've heard this a few times: student-focused, innovation, mandate-free, parent involvement, literacy-driven, and make it as efficient as possible. And we achieved all those goals, with the exception of perhaps the mandate piece. We do have 10 mandates. I believe they're soft mandates, and we worked with some of the people involved. Senator Hoffman worked and got a resolution on the school nursing issue. So there's some of them are hard, but most of them are soft mandates, things that schools and districts had already been doing, and then working with them in other areas so that we address important issues, but also not increase the challenges for them in this difficult time. So again, the sum up was kids in classrooms, literacy, several goals: kids in classroom, literacy, mental health issues of our kids, teachers of color, equal funding, fair funding, and reforming and empowering parents and educators. Finally, this bill represents $860 million of new money, forecast money and new money that we're putting in. So over 2021, this is an additional $860 million in K-12. In the last year, the federal government has put in, including the last tranche, the $2.6 billion of funds to support our schools. That's a huge sum of money. It's almost 25% of what our current budget was for the year. So $2.6 billion from the Fed that fully funds our summer school programs and helps pick up learning loss in other areas, including help supporting technology, special ed, and many other pieces of our K-12 system. So I won't go through the bill line for line again, but that is the high-level summary. Kids, families, empowering parents, relieving mandates, relieving pressure on schools so they can get to the business that they need to get to. And that's getting our kids back up to speed, catching them up, and providing the services in new and innovative ways. So we have got that in the bill also. With that, I will leave it open, and if there's any comments or questions, Mr. Chair, this bill will be, I would move that this bill be passed and re-referred to Senate Tax Committee.
All right, thank you, Senator Chamberlain. With that, we'll open it up for member questions and/or amendments. Senator Uyghur's hand up went first. Senator Uyghur?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Senator Chamberlain, members. Let's stipulate all of us are deeply concerned about helping students and parents and maximizing students' potential. And that's why we serve on this committee. That's why we all have election certificates. We do have different points of view as to how to best accomplish that. But I thought we'd start just with that common stipulation, that understanding as to where we're at. There are many provisions that I support, that we support, and I'd like to just mention some of those to get off on a positive note. The access for rigorous coursework, post-secondary education opportunities. Yes. The expanded rural career and technical education. Absolutely. There are additional initiatives to get more teachers of color, and the pathway program for teachers of color, the hiring bonuses. There's some more that can be done, but a very good direction. Classroom aid, referendum equalization, transportation sparsity, safe schools, regional libraries, community ed. Yes. Education innovation zone plans, adult basic ed opportunities, and we support the increased flexibility for fund transfers. The lunch shaming provision, we have advocated that, and it's here. So bipartisan way, we've got that. The epilepsy seizure and training action plans, prohibiting the expulsion of the young K-3 students unless there's an extreme danger. That's progress. The disclosures on hazards in the schools to make sure there's parental and staff student notice, something that stemmed from the White Bear Lake incident, which we know, and that's in. There's strength and accountability for the world's best workforce. We support those. I wish we could just pass that portion of it right now, and let's hope in the conference committee process that these will survive. There are actually additional provisions to that I support, and colleagues like Senator Chamberlain. I won't go through all the provisions now. There are, though, some concerns that we have already litigated, already debated on the floor and on the committee. We oppose suspending academic standards for social studies. The discrimination against persons who are transgender appears in here. The LIFO repeal. We've had discussions, perhaps it'll renew on the floor, but we are going to register concerns that those are issues that are before us. The biggest issue, however, that we have is the target. I recognize it's a target, the number, the 152 million for the biennium budget. We're not talking about the federal money. Yes, federal money, and you spend that, and it should be allocated toward classrooms, and I acknowledge that it is needed. But for the 152 million for the biennium, that it doesn't come close to addressing inflation. This will result in cuts for schools, and it's a concern. We can do more. The governor has proposed more. The other body is asking more. And soon I'll offer an amendment which would offer more, because this is our only opportunity to offer such an amendment, since it would be out of balance on the Senate floor. It's additionally troubling, in addition to not having enough funds, the education savings accounts the vouchers will siphon even more money from public schools. It's not the right direction. And look at the nonpartisan fiscal note as to the impact. When you look at 24-25, $250 million impacted on the general ed reduction. That's alarming. I understand the argument about parent choice, and there are many programs where we work with our non-public schools on non-religious items, but this is a significant drain to our public schools. And you add that not coming close to addressing inflation, it's a problem. We had some hope that there would be one additional tool. It had bipartisan authorship. Senator Duckworth's proposal and Chair Chamberlain, I was happy to be a co-author. There were others which would allow school boards to renew operating levy that had been previously approved by taxpayers at no tax increase, but would allow renewal. Somehow that did not make it. This would have been a valuable tool to have as well. So members, as I cited, there are many provisions that we support, but some of the policy issues that we've already argued on the floor are a concern. And the huge concern that I am really troubled with is regarding the funding. And we need additional resources for the schools to avoid cuts. So I offer the A4 amendment and ask for a roll call vote.
Senator Uyghur offers the A4 amendment, and a roll call was requested and will be granted when we get to that point. Senator Uyghur, I believe staff will probably send that out, but if you just want to start talking about your A4 amendment, obviously we won't take any action until members have an opportunity to see that in their emails, but go ahead and start discussing it.
Yes, thank you, Senator Eichhorn and members. It's two parts amendment, and one part would be what the governor is proposing in his inspirational Due North plan. And it would call for $731.5 million in the biennium. New money, 731.5. We're not talking about the federal, we're talking about state. And we also have provisions in there for the additional funds for summer school. And that would be an additional 96 million, I believe, 96.6, and that's from the general fund. It's true that 57.5 was liberated from the Legislative Advisory Committee, but the comprehensive program for summer school provided additional funds that districts have asked for, addressing declining enrollment, the need for more counselors, social workers, additional course offerings, reaching out into the community. The need, yes, it can be partially addressed in what has been there, but we would submit that the need can be more comprehensively addressed by providing that program. So we have talked about it before, and this is our only chance to offer that perspective. The other body has definitely expressed that interest. So has our governor, and so are we at this point. On the proposal for the biennium, it provides the needed funds that districts are asking for. We need to address the 4,000 students that are waiting in the pre-K 4 slots that need that extra help for getting ready for kindergarten. That's not funded in the bill that is before the committee. We need to address the cross subsidy for special education. This provision would do that as proposed by the governor. We could make some additional headway on the cross subsidy that's done for English language learners. Money is in there for counselors, additional help, and we did have a courtesy hearing, and actually, Senator Chamberlain, you did carry the bill, admittedly by request for the governor's office, but, so just being sort of Minnesota nice to, put it in, but we are supporting that bill and the provisions there. So I strongly support those provisions. It puts needed resources there. Through tax committee, there's proposals that would help pay for it. And I would urge your support, and again, would ask for a roll call vote. Thank you.
Senator Uyghur, members have not, or so at least some members have not received the amendment yet, so we're still waiting to receive that.
Okay.
Senator Chamberlain, do you happen to have that yet?
I don't have it here, but I'll say this. In short, I would oppose the amendment. Thank you, Senator Uyghur, but I oppose the amendment. First of all, we don't have the money. You had to say you had to ask where we're going to get the money from, and I know everybody has an idea where that comes from. But before we even spend $1 on the budget on K-12, it's increasing 3.6% for the biennium at $712 million. In the last two budget cycles, I believe we had right around 6.5% to 7% in 17 and in 19 increases in the budget. 17 and 19, I think the increase is around 6.5%, 7% each of those two cycles. This time around, unfortunately, we had a big fat surplus before COVID, and COVID came. We thankfully recovered somewhat, but we did not recover nearly enough. We have the 1.6 billion is 1.3 billion in one-time money. So we are constrained about with and for and how we're going to get resources to do just that. It just doesn't exist. We are focusing this budget on areas that have been ignored for quite a while: sparsity, safe schools, community ed, trying to even out the one-time the disparities with the allocation by giving a one-time funding to the schools that didn't receive nearly what they needed, as well as other things, as you have mentioned, and focusing on literacy and teachers of color in other areas. So to sum up, I don't know where you're going to get the money from. Take it from somewhere else because it doesn't exist. We had an opportunity, COVID, shutdowns, recession, short, and the money's not there. Finally, summer school is paid for. The reading through the allocation and appropriate the allocation of the funds, not only directly from the Fed, but through the governor's own proposals with the GEAR money and the 9.5%. Summer school has been fully funded, and there's plenty there to help them out. We simply had to focus on things that are new and different and have been out there for a long time, creating disparities for kids all across the state, and in particular our lower income and children of color. So that's what this bill focuses on, and we don't. So I would oppose the amendment that Senator Uyghur has offered.
Additional discussion on the A4 Senator Uyghur amendment. It does appear that members should have that now, and it is posted for the public as well.
Yeah, Senator Eichhorn, I would just respectfully respond that there is a different point of view by a number of people, that by parents, by school boards, by staff, as to whether there are enough resources in the summer school funding already. And I believe talking to a colleague, Senator Utke, for example, talking about in many rural districts that have been adversely impacted by the declining enrollment from the pandemic, but their costs have still stayed fixed, and where they have lost a significant amount of revenue. This provides relief in that summer school. It gives that discretion. So I would say that this would help us get to the finish line in doing it. On the way to pay for it, we do propose a fifth tier tax, and we've been very transparent about that. And that'll probably be the big showdown as we look at the last 41 days of session in conference committee as to how we're going to reconcile the differences. But it's true, you do not have a way to pay for it unless you were to increase revenue. We stand behind the need to fairly increase revenue in a time of great need. So that's would be the point. And I'll just point out too, when you look at the revenue that's projected. If you were to just look at what's needed for inflation, if you were to accept that school districts have inflationary costs, whether it's in healthcare, utilities, et cetera, the projection, nonpartisan projections for the 22-23 is that E12 needs 517 million more. 24-25, 1.2 billion more. And so we want to have an impact by reducing the amount that has to be cut. And as we go through this recovery together, we need to step up with the resources that are needed. Thank you.
All right, with that, members, we'll go to the committee legislative assistant in just a second to take the roll. Just remember to turn your cameras on as we do this. You're supposed to have your camera on for the roll. So we will go to the committee legislative assistant to take the roll on the A4 amendment.
You're on mute.
I had to get him on mute for me to. Okay. All right. Senator Chamberlain,
No.
Senator Eichhorn?
Aye.
No, you're a no.
Or no.
Excuse me, is Senator Donovan?
Sorry.
I can't hear him.
Okay.
He's
Thank you, Justin.
next to me. There's an echo in our room. I apologize. Senator Uyghur,
Aye.
Senator Coleman,
No.
Senator Swedzinski,
Yes.
Senator Duckworth,
No.
Senator Isaacson,
Yes.
Senator Kunish,
Yes.
Senator Newman.
No.
Thank you. I'm muted. You can go ahead and unmute.
There being 4 yes votes and 5 no votes, the motion does not prevail. Additional amendments or I guess it's been a long day already. If there being 4 yes votes and 5 no votes, the motion does not prevail. On to additional discussion and or amendments from members. Any other additional discussion from members or amendments?
On this, I'm sorry, excuse me for clarification. On this
Yes,
bill
Senator Kunish.
or any other amendments that we've offered?
Senator Kunish, there's been 2 amendments. Senator Chamberlain's delete all, which we have in front of us, and Senator Uyghur's A4, which we just voted down. There have been no additional amendments to this point.
So we're on the main bill right now.
That's correct, Senator Isaacson.
Thank you. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator Uyghur.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I believe Senator Kunish had a A5 amendment.
I have 2 amendments that have been offered.
Yeah, you,
There,
Okay.
Senator Kunish, you have not offered an amendment yet. If you would like to offer one, now is the time to do so.
Okay. So do you have those amendments in front of you?
We don't, but when you offer them, staff will send them to the members.
Okay. All righty. Well, then, yes, I would like to offer the A5 amendment, please.
Senator Kunish offers the A5 amendment. If staff would please send that to the members. While they're doing that, if you want to go ahead and start discussing it.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The A5 amendment is an amendment to add in some of the teachers of color and Indigenous pieces. As a committee, we have been tasked with setting goals and accomplishing some pretty daunting tasks to ensure that we're educating our students who are ready and responsible 21st century members. And I really do appreciate the bits and pieces of the Teachers of Color and Indigenous Act that are included in the bill. But as the author of this bill in the House for a number of years, it's really important that we make sure we have the full comprehensive plan from recruitment all the way through retention. And as our communities become more diverse, one of our goals should be to ensure that our students have educators that look like them, that speak their languages and have common life experiences, because we know that when our students relate to teachers that have that diversity, that they actually really do excel. And I know within this committee, we absolutely have this shared interest in diversifying the teachers' workforce and building our workforce, but we don't have an explicit unified goal to steadily increase that percentage of BIPOC teachers, so that within this generation coming up, all of our students have equitable access to diverse teachers who reflect our students in the schools. And so this A5 amendment establishes a state goal that by 2040, our teacher workforce will reflect the student population, but it amends the language from SF 446 calling for an increase of 2% per year, and it just states, the amendment just states that the goal is to show an annual increase in the percent of teachers of color and American Indian each year. And then it requires PALSB to create a comprehensive summary report of the impact of all state-funded programs with the explicit purpose to diversify the teacher workforce so that the legislature and the public can be informed about the overall progress in meeting those state goals and make adjustments with state investments and producing the very best outcomes. And if you'd like me to go into the amendment with a little more detail, I'm happy to do that.
We'll go to Senator Chamberlain. Senator Chamberlain, do you have a copy of the amendment?
No, but that's fine.
It should be in your email, Senator Chamberlain. And it's online.
All right. Well, in short, again, I would oppose the amendment at this time. A couple of things. One is, well, it shouldn't take 20 years, and I hope it doesn't take 20 years, Senator Kunesh and members, to get to our level of parity with students in the classroom. I think the number is 20%, give or take, depending on where you're at. But on average, about 20% in classroom are students of color. So we obviously want to get from about 5% up to that number. And I certainly hope it doesn't take 20 years. And I believe with the current plan, as we work through it, it will happen well before that time. Black Men Teach program itself said they could have, I think, 30 in the classroom in 5 years. And if we continue at that rate, plus with the other options that the governor's put out there that we agree with, and funding those, we should go a long way into achieving that goal well before 2040, I hope. Secondly, our goal is to get as many teachers of color into the classroom as soon, qualified teachers in classroom as soon as possible, and as efficiently as possible.
Yep.
And that is what we intend to do, and that is our goal here. It makes sense. It's right. The data, everything points in the right direction. Next, the legislature is not involved in creating curriculum. Finally, we, especially at this time, members, we cannot increase the burdens on schools and the department with trying to recover from COVID and catch kids back up to where they need to be. We have a provision in the bill that many disagree with, and suspending and review and implementation of all standards for 2 years, And to then now say that, A, the legislature is going to now get in the business of writing curriculum, and B, that we don't believe in the kind of countermands original intent to help out schools, districts, educators, and the department to focus all efforts on getting kids back to school. So I appreciate what you're trying to get at, Senator Kunesh, but right now is not the time to impose additional mandates and make life any more difficult, but to focus on our efforts on getting the money out there for those teachers of color to get in the classroom. So members, I respectfully oppose this amendment at this time.
Additional discussion on the A5 amendment?
I would like to respond, please.
Senator Kunish?
So first of all, there's no discussion in this bill about curriculum. So that is not the burden. What this really does is it sets goals to increase them. And yes, I would say 2040 sounds a far, far way. But what we need to do is invest now in all of those things that will bring those teachers in, just like with our black men teaching bill, very similar to that. And so it's, I think we've heard over and over from Chair Chamberlain how important it is that we put together the world's best workforce. And that's what this amendment does. It addresses that. It's also very similar to that is heard of in House File 446 this session, which is a House bill, I understand, but it's based on Senate File 4166 that Senators Abler and Nelson and Senator Eichhorn co-authored, and I authored in the House. And so the goal of this amendment is to set those goals within our districts, so that we're improving the learning experience for all of our students, and that the districts would be expected to include in their strategic plan the efforts to make sure that all students and families and staff have that inclusive and respectful learning environment. So yes, the districts would have to simply provide all students with access to culturally relevant or teachers in that way, so that we know when the curriculum is provided, it's provided by science and research, and it's bent on improving student learning outcomes rather than expanding those gaps and expanding the intercultural understanding. And so I would ask that for the support of this bill, and I will ask for a roll call as well.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Isaacson? Oh, no question from Senator Isaacson. Sorry, your hand was up. With that, if there's no additional discussion, I don't see any additional hands. The committee legislative assistant will take the roll. Members, you just need to put your cameras on and speak loudly. I'm going to have to mute so we don't get feedback in the room here.
On the A5 Kunish amendment, Senator Chamberlain,
No.
Senator Eichhorn,
No.
Senator Uyghur,
Yes.
Senator Coleman,
No.
Senator Swedzinski,
Yes.
Senator Duckworth,
No.
Senator Isaacson,
Yes.
Senator Kunish,
Yes.
Senator Newman.
No.
There being 4 yes votes and 5 no votes, the motion does not prevail. Senator Kunish, you had an additional amendment, you said?
I did. Would you like me to go right to that?
Yes, please.
All right. So I also have an amendment. It is the A9 amendment. And this amendment is asking Minnesota Department of Education to create an ethnic studies curriculum within our Minnesota schools, because interesting enough, more than 143,000 Minnesota students speak a language other than English at home, which means they obviously are coming from very diverse communities and home life. And with the fact that our families are in our communities and communicate in nearly 300 different languages, from American Sign Language to indigenous language like our Dakota and Ojibwe, It's important that we're including all of these different cultures within the studies that we promote. It is absolutely imperative, members, that our school districts have plans to simply provide all students with access to culturally relevant or ethnic study curriculum. And I feel, and many people feel, that embedding those ethnic study curriculum is well proven by research to improve teacher and student learning outcomes. It closes that learning gap that is perpetually plaguing Minnesota, and it expands our intercultural understanding and empathy. And so, Mr. Chair, I offer you the A9 amendment, and I can speak to it in more depth because there is a second part to it as well.
The amendment has been sent out by staff. If you want to complete talking about it, then we'll go to Senator Chamberlain to respond.
Oh, great. So ethnic studies, for those of you that are not familiar, means the crucial and interdisciplinary study of race and ethnicity and indigeneity, with a focus on the experiences and the perspective of people of color within and beyond Minnesota and the United States. It analyzes the way in which race and racism has been and continue to be powerful social, cultural, and political forces, and their connections to other stratifications such as gender, class, sexuality, and legal status. And so within this bill, this amendment, A9, it would require ethnic studies instruction in all K-12 schools, starting with high school students who would be required to take an ethnic studies course to graduate. It creates an ethnic studies advisory task force composed of a diverse array of educators, students, and community experts to advise MDE on ethnic studies content standards and develop a model ethnic study curriculum. And it allocates funding to MDA to convene that task force and to aid school districts in the implementation of ethnic studies. It includes ethnic studies as a strand within the social studies standard. And then it provides a timeline for implementation of the standards by the 23-24 for the high school and 24-25 for elementary and school students. So that is the first part of this bill. The second part of this amendment requires an Indigenous studies for all of our public schools. For those of you who don't know, my grandpa and my mom were enrolled members of the Standing Rock Lakota tribe. But when I was growing up here in Minnesota, I never learned in school how my ancestors, within the Dakotas and within this state's history, how our history and our identity are interwoven and influenced by the cultural and experiences of our Indigenous tribes here in Minnesota. And too often I will ask folks, how many tribes do we have in Minnesota? And it's not often that people can tell me, can give me the answer. So this Indigenous focused curriculum will integrate culturally relevant pre-kindergarten learning for American Indian children, scholarships for American Indian students pursuing teaching careers, and a new program to provide tribal relation training for school administrators. It will also support a world-class education so that all Minnesotans have a better understanding of the lived experiences of Minnesota's first inhabitants who are still here. And it will help eliminate current disparities in education system by increasing the knowledge of full generations of Minnesotans. And it's bound to have a huge impact on our state as well as other states. This proposal is going to increase both American Indian engagement, and we know that our American Indian kids have some of the worst graduation numbers. And it's often because they don't feel engaged. They don't see themselves in this world of Minnesota and the broader world. It's also going to promote more meaningful relations between schools and our American Indian identities, and build on the current required standards and provide the educators with the foundation for a shared understanding of the culture, the history, and the sovereignty of our tribes here in Minnesota. As a library media specialist for over 25 years, every year I would have numerous teachers come to me asking me for information and resources on our tribes, on the American, authentic information. And so it's really important that we are bringing this forward. So this amendment asks for money to over the next 2 years create this curriculum and this study. And I think at one time I read a quote from Chair Chamberlain where he says he welcomes more voices to the table, and we have so much more to learn. And so with that, I would ask that that members that you vote yes on this amendment. And again, I would ask for a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Chamberlain on the A9 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Kunish. So same issue, funds and focus mandates at a time that we can ill afford. If our goal again is to help schools and educators keep up, then that is what we need to do. We need to focus all effort and energy and funds that we have on getting those students caught up. And that's not what this bill does. It diverts money, energy, resources away from that effort. Now is not the time to impose these additional mandates on the department or on our educators and our districts. I understand that the process of curriculum is review for social studies is, of course, underway. So this proposal at this time does not work with the priorities of our kids in schools and state. It's unfortunate that our children not only don't know how many tribes, but that so many are unable to read at grade level and do math at grade level, and we're so far behind. So we are using additionally our money and our ability now to focus our efforts in getting those kids to where they need to be. It is an abomination, Senator Kunish, that our kids are so far behind. And that's a whole nother discussion we'll leave for another time. We all have our views on why that is. I certainly have my views on that. But for now, for this amendment, it's the wrong place and time for it. We had to focus on getting these kids caught up, and not taking those resources other places, focusing on the kids, the families, and the educators, and getting them back up where they need to be, not adding additional burdens. Thank you.
Senator Swedzinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Senator Kunish for bringing this bill forward. I think it's interesting that the task force concept she's created, that the majority of the members of the task force are current classroom teachers and or students. And what a breath of fresh air that the committee would be made up of a majority of people that would be directly impacted. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Swedzinski. Seeing no other discussion, members, cameras on. The committee legislative assistant will take the roll.
The A9 Kunish Amendment, Senator Chamberlain.
Right, wait,
No.
just one moment. It's kind of funny. It's a funny.
Hey, Senator Newman, Senator Newman, mute. Scotty, there we go. Senator Chamberlain is no, A9.
Senator Eichhorn.
No.
Senator Uyghur.
Yes.
Senator Coleman.
No.
Senator Swedzinski.
Yes.
Senator Duckworth.
Nope.
Senator Isaacson.
Yes.
Senator Kunish.
Yes.
Senator Newman.
No.
There being 4 yes votes and 5 no votes, the motion does not prevail. Back to the underlying bill. Senator Swedzinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the A2 amendment.
Senator Swedzinski offers the A2 amendment. If staff would send that out, Senator Swedzinski, go ahead and start telling us about your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think most everybody on this committee knows this one was coming. This amendment would this amendment would require that all Minnesota high school students take a course in American government specifically in their junior, senior year. This bipartisan language aligns perfectly with the House Omnibus Education Bill. We have listened to the concerns of all the stakeholders over the last year. And I think this gives the students and the teachers and the school districts the flexibility they need to make sure this bill becomes law. Article 13 of the Minnesota State Constitution says, how does it go?
Civics.
Yeah, really good preparation on my part. It is the duty of the House. Oh my God, what's the first word? It is the oh my God, what I got in my head right now is the first. Well, it says something to the effect that in order to have a Republican form of government, it is a requirement of the Republican form of government is to have an intelligent population. And it's specifically in Article 13 says that's the duty of the state legislatures is to create a Republican form of government based on an intelligent population. And I think requiring an American government class does just that. So it's kind of one of our duties in the Constitution that the state legislature requires an American government class so that the population can participate in this Republican form of government. Our juniors and seniors, and you know, as I keep bringing this up, many schools do require it in 9th grade, but they're just too young. They're not working on their driver's licenses yet. They're not paying sales taxes or income taxes or payroll taxes or registering to vote or registering for selective service or getting ready for that next step in life, figuring out what they want to do with their career. And, you know, we do a pretty good job of teaching what the rights of the citizens are to our students, but I don't think we do a very good job of teaching our young people what their responsibilities are. And, you know, that we, the people, the first 3 words in the U.S. Constitution, and then it goes on to say what we, the people, want out of our framework of government. And it's hard to create, we, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. And it's hard to form a more perfect union if you don't even know the rules. And so an engaged and enlightened citizenry is what this republic and what this state requires. It's hard to craft a letter to an elected official if you don't know how. It's hard to attend a civic meeting. It's hard to come into our offices when COVID is done to meet with us as constituents and lobbyists. It's hard to be civil if you don't even realize what this process is. It's our constitutional duty, legislators, to prepare a competent, responsible, and informed and thoughtful citizens who participate in their communities and have a sense of political efficacy and civic virtue and a moral responsibility to participate. So with that said, you knew this was coming. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, and I do ask for a roll call vote.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Chamberlain?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Swedzinski. Yes, there were, of the amendments, 2 people had talked to me, Senator Swedzinski and then Senator Frantz, although of course he's not here, but they talked to me about potential amendments. Senator Swedzinski, as in the previous amendment, Senator Kunish, her A9 and the A5 and other curriculum ideas, it is not the focus at this time to increase the burdens on the schools. To the extent we can reduce those burdens, not increase them unnecessarily. As with Senator Kunish's amendment, I understand, we get it, but given the need and necessity for schools to catch up and refocus and get kids caught up, again, I'll say the same thing: funds and focus and mandates. Even though I understand this isn't a heavy mandate, it's still an extracurriculum issue that is hanging out there over the educators' heads. So in that spirit, I would say I do not support this amendment for the same reasons I have talked about earlier. Thank you.
Additional member discussion on the A2 amendment. Seeing none, members' cameras on, the committee legislative assistant will take the roll.
On the Swedzinski A2 amendment, Senator Chamberlain,
No.
Senator Icorn,
No.
Senator Fisher,
Yes.
Senator Coleman,
No.
Senator Swedzinski,
Yes.
Senator Duckworth,
No.
Senator Isaacson,
Yes.
Senator Kunesh,
Yes.
Senator Newman.
No.
Senator Newman, thank you.
There being 4 yes votes and 5 no votes, the amendment does not prevail. Additional member discussion on the underlying bill. Senator Uyghur.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Chamberlain, you just mentioned that you had a conversation with Senator Frentz, and that could be the subject of an amendment I'll offer, which I will. I offer the A10 amendment.
Senator Uyghur offers the A10 amendment. While staff sends that out, if you would just go ahead and tell us about the amendment, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We fund a number of museums, including in your district, Mr. Chair, and Rochester, Duluth, and other parts of our great state, providing opportunities for learning for students. This amendment addresses the Children's Museum in southern Minnesota, which has over 100,000 visitors each year. 75 of the 87 counties in Minnesota have residents going to attend, as well as beyond. Number of partnerships, and I'm thinking it may have been an omission, but hopefully we can include this. So I would yield to Senator Chamberlain, and perhaps this could be deemed as a friendly amendment.
Senator Chamberlain.
Yes, Senator Frentz spoke to me about this, and as Senator Uyghur and others are familiar, this is a difficult time, most difficult time of a budget year. As you work through these issues, and many people have things that are interesting, good, helpful perhaps. But again, you get sick of me hearing me say this. I know we're allocating funds other places in our bill, but it's also focused on critical things. And we can debate on some of those issues and what is more critical than others, but critical things of literacy and mental health and evening up the school funding, sparsity, referendum equalization, things like that. And some might argue that this amendment doesn't really cost that much. That might be the case, but it doesn't directly impact our students in our schools and does not focus on those priorities we have in front of us. Again, as with previous amendments, I get it, I understand, but it is not simply not a focus and a priority of the committee this year, given the circumstances we know we're in that I have previously mentioned. So at this time, I would oppose this amendment.
Mr. Chair?
Additional discussion on the A10, Senator Uyghur.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Clearly, going to a science museum presents a great deal of learning opportunity. So I would, strongly, suggest the partnerships at all of our museums are achieving that. However, I'm very curious, Senator Chamberlain, you said that we shouldn't be funding museums. So why do we have the other museums in the base?
Well, that's an easy one.
You could take that out.
I wasn't around when they put them in the base, Senator Uyghur, and there have been several people ask me this year, please put this in the base, please put it in the base. And I have said no. So the ones I have had control over, I have said no to. if I would have been around and running the show when those museums came up, I probably would have said, no, they're not going to be in the base. But as you well know, it wasn't my intent to undo that stuff. We have issues in front of us that are priorities. So I was not around when those were put in the base. If I was, and I had anything to say about it, I would not have put them in the base. They could have had some funding every now and then, but they would not have been in continuing funding mode. So I agree, Senator Uyghur, there's inconsistency there, but as you know, in politics in this games are going up here. I do not always agree with them. Sometimes you get swept up in that maelstrom. So I understand what you're saying, but I simply, that's my answer to that question. So again, I oppose the amendment.
Additional discussion on the A10 amendment?
Well, Mr.
Senator
Chair,
Uyghur.
I believe that this amendment will probably have a much better chance in Finance Committee, where I know that Senator Rosen is very aware of the outstanding things being done at the Children's Museum in the Mankato area. And so with confidence that there would be a rainbow ahead on this amendment. And I also was going to offer an amendment for Bloomington, the Works, which is not included. All the other museums are here, except, and I'm not going to say that there are 2 Democratic senators who have museums in their districts that don't have funding. Go figure. I'm happy, Senator Eichhorn, your museum's there. And I've been there, I support it, but I'm going to withdraw my amendment, and I'm going to hope that Senator Rosen gets this corrected in finance. Thank you.
Maybe.
Senator Uyghur withdraws the A10 amendment. We are back to the underlying bill. Additional questions or amendments from members?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Isaacson?
Yep, I would like to offer the A8 amendment, please.
Senator Isaacson offers the A8 amendment. If staff would send that out, go ahead and start telling us about your amendment.
So every year since I've been in the legislature, I've been on an education, either on the House side or the Senate side in K-12 or higher ed. And one of the things that I feel like really has been a systemic problem, and I've talked about this on the floor a lot, has been the way in which we've underfunded education. And there are so many different ways that can be measured that demonstrates the systemic underfunding of education. And one of the best examples would be this bill. And not just because I think this bill underfunds education, but because many of the things this bill is trying to address is a back-end solution to a front-end problem. And if you look at the way we've not even kept up with inflation since 2003 in education, you can see that we have epically failed in our responsibility that Senator Swedzinski was talking about, constitutionally required to take care of our schools and provide a public education. And so, I just really struggle with this because it seems like it's something we're dancing around. And trust me, I'd love to pin all of this on Senator Chamberlain. I'd love to blame him for the whole thing, but he's not to blame, because the fact of the matter is when the Democrats in control, we didn't fix it either. Right. And this has been a systemic legislative problem in which there hasn't been the political will to understand and acknowledge what needs to be done, how far behind we are, and the money we need to spend to get us where we need to go to have the public education system that we want to be proud of, that we know our kids deserve. And so I have struggled greatly in watching, and I do the same thing when I've been in higher education committee. I call out the fact that we're not keeping up with what our responsibilities are, plain and simple. And so then what happens is we get a lot of other problems that happen because we haven't funded education adequately. And so I have to give kudos to Senator Chamberlain, because his bill does have a lot of Band-Aids attempting to solve some of those problems. He talks about equity, talking about getting diverse teachers in the workforce. These are super important things. And I applaud, as much as I can be a bit acerbic at times, I applaud the efforts by the Republicans to address some of those things. I think that's a real bipartisan solution we can talk about. However, my dad always taught me that if you're going to solve a problem, go to the root. Don't just fix the symptoms. This bill addresses a lot of the symptoms, but does not get to the root. And where I think Senator Chamberlain and I have just a fundamental disagreement is about the funding, right? We had the money a couple of years ago to create a $500 million tax cut for corporations, but we didn't have the money to put in education. And I think if you ask the average Minnesotan, what do they care about? They're going to care about the kids more than they're going to care about the businesses. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be worried about business, right? But the reality is we didn't have that money to spend, but we did. And we put a tax cut out there, and that's been a problem. We are not acknowledging that we have a responsibility as a state. And it just isn't just in education. I mean, you can go down the list of areas where we're falling behind. And we have to finally make a decision as a state. Are we going to be the education state, one of the best states in the union, what we continue to rank at right now? Right? The last U.S. News and World Report had us up in the top 5 in almost every category. We came in number 2 overall. And then the New York Times put an article out saying it was BS. Almost said words I shouldn't there. It was BS, and that we should have been number 1, right? And the reality is why are we number 1? You've heard me say it on the floor a million times, and I will continue saying this until I'm either out of the Senate or we fix this problem. We're not number 1 because we've got a lot of water. We're not number 1 because we're Minnesota nice. We're certainly not number 1 because of the Minnesota Vikings. That's never going to be the case, it seems. We're number 1 because we educate the living crap out of all of our students. We educate everybody, and we give everybody that chance to be successful. And we've had that commitment for decades, maybe even over 100 years. We've made that commitment solid, and we put education first, and we put people like Senator Swedzinski and others in a position to help our students, and public education and our teachers have led the way on that. But for whatever reason, over the last 20 years, we have begun to falter on that. And one of the key examples of that, folks, if you want clear evidence of what I'm talking about as a microcosm of this entire problem, look no farther than career and technical education. 20 plus years ago, it got phased out of public schools. And now for the last 5 to 6 years, we've been sitting with a shortage of trying to fill people in skilled manufacturing jobs. That's not a coincidence, right? When people my age were in school, you had a shop class, a metal class, you had graphic design, had home ec, right? Advanced shop, you built, our school built houses in the football field in the spring. You had all those things that gave these people tons of opportunity. And this bill doesn't give us what we need to get across the finish line just to solve that problem. And so systemically, we see 20 years ago, we stopped investing, and now we see a shortfall. And that's hurting our business, and it's hurting our tax base. And it's not providing opportunities. Why? How do I know this? Because I see it every day in the classroom when I teach at Century. The number of students that I get who are in their late 20s, early 30s, who've been working minimum wage jobs and finally decided to come back to a career in technical school because they realize they have options, things that were not brought to them when they were in high school, because it wasn't a focus back then. I'm telling you that example of career and technical education and how it relates to the way people get career and trade jobs in Minnesota is a microcosm of the big picture of how we fund education. And so I'm really struggling with that. And every year we go by, we put the Band-Aids on, we try to make ourselves feel better. We plug the biggest holes that we can. And I get it. I don't know if Senator Chamberlain, if given the chance with the wand, would spend the money if he could. But I get that he did what he could with what he had. I just don't think it's anywhere close to what we need to do. Right? So we're going to pay lip service to some problems here. We're going to put some Band-Aids on some issues. And I think they're important issues we got to fix. Don't get me wrong. I'm not minimizing that. But once again, we're in a situation where, just like the Democrats did in 13 and 14, we didn't solve the problem. We didn't put the money where our mouth is. We did not invest in our kids in a way that's necessary, that even comes close. And here's the funny part. What my amendment does here is it just gets us back to inflation. If we had been following just inflation, not any extra money, just inflation since 2003. That's what my bill does. My amendment does, is it brings us back within line of what inflation is. And here's the deal. Research is clear. Educational inflation is actually higher than normal inflation. The cost of maintaining a school and maintaining an educational system, it runs at a higher inflation rate. This doesn't even account for that. So I'm not even getting us perfectly to the finish line, but I'm taking a huge step forward. Now I can imagine, based on the speech I'm sure I could repeat now that I've heard Senator Chamberlain give now for the last hour, that the money's not there. And my argument would be, it is, you just don't want to get it. And I get it. It doesn't work with your ideology and where the GOP is at compared to the DFL. I understand that, but it is a really important difference. It's a very important difference about what we think our priorities are and we want to spend money on. And the reality is that we have lacked the will in the legislature to spend the money on our kids as they deserve to have it spent. And so I'm really frustrated with that. And I want to be clear, and I know that I can be a little fiery sometimes, but I want to be clear that accusation is leveled across both parties. It has been a failure of both parties, right? And until we decide that that's going to be the priority we want to have, until we say that's what we value our kids, until we show that with our actions, because my parents also taught me, never listen to what someone says, always watch what they do, because you are what you consistently do. And we have consistently not done right by our kids over the last 20 years in education. And so for me, that's the problem I think we see. And that's what my amendment is attempting to at least address. I realize that the chances of getting you guys to have such a massive increase to the formula is probably not likely, but I think it's something we should be talking about and we should be looking at as a long-term goal we should be shooting for. And so I ask for a roll call vote. Thank you.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Discussion on the A8 amendment, Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Isaacson. Yeah, you weren't bad. You weren't bad there at all, actually. So we, there's a lot to unpack there. And there is a fundamental disagreement, not on that education needs to be funded, but on how we do it and what happens. And, just a couple of quick things. First, I oppose the amendment for reasons previously stated. There's just not the money there. And where it comes from, I'm not sure. So again, we could debate that in other arenas. However, in 2001, they passed the business property tax idea. That idea was supposed to help fund public education. Well, that got dumped in the general fund. There have been proposals in the past. And then what happens is, I will say that Senator Isaacson had said, it gets pulled off and put other places. The problem I had trying to get $120,000 for a dyslexia specialist at the Department of Education was mind-blowing. And but I will agree with you also, Senator Isaacson. Instead, money went to health clubs and companies and corporations and global companies for a lot of different things, right on down the list. But we couldn't find $120K to put in spot for a dyslexia specialist. So while I oppose this amendment, we disagree on how we would fund it, but we do agree that education needs to be funded. We do fund it well here, but you you understand this, about 74% of the funding goes to is from the formula. That leaves about 26% for everything else. And there's a bunch of big pots there as well. And God forbid we touch anything, as Senator Uyghur mentioned, why didn't I remove the museums from the base? Well, you pick your political fights, right? So again, I oppose the amendment. I understand the spirit of it. There's a lot to unpack there. But I'll leave it at that. There are problems and systemic problems, and everybody wants a few bucks. And then when you do that, you start creating programs and incentives, and all of a sudden that money gets siphoned off somewhere else. So there's a lot of systemic issues there that need political leadership at a higher level than me to manage. So. Thank you, Senator Isaacson. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for now, I would oppose this amendment. Thank you.
Senator Isaacson.
I want to first point out that he said for now. So what I heard there is there's a chance. Second, I want to be clear that he's exactly right when he talks about Senator Chambers, is exactly right. When you look at the information that I have from the Association of Metropolitan School Districts, we matched where we were at costs and inflation up till 2003, when we were talking about it being about 4,966 a student. And now we're sitting at about 6,500 a student. And if we had followed the inflation, just basic inflation would be at 7,200 a student, right? And while I do agree that there is more than just what goes on the formula, my overall point that I think is important to recognize is that because we've not fully funded education where we need to, we've allowed for things to happen that now require a ton of Band-Aids to fix. right? And while I get, Senator Chamberlain isn't in a position to force his caucus to take on a stance that he doesn't want to take, and he did the best with what he could, I still think it's unacceptably low, right? And it's low, and I'm not sure that I would say that I think the House has done what it needs to do either. I have to take a look at their bill a little closer. But my concern is that if we're going to be a state that talks about and really refers to students as our pride and joy, and that's what we want to push forward for our future and taking care of them, man, we don't walk that walk. And that's a frustration to me. So I would love to have you all vote for this amendment. I recognize that there are some clearly divisive parts of this that you might struggle with, but this isn't over, and this discussion will continue on long, I'm sure, past this session, and I will continue to always be siding on taking care of our kids and providing that financial incentive and the financial money necessary to make sure our schools are doing what they need to do to be successful. And I hope at some point that all of you will join me in that. So thank you for your time and the discussion. Thank you. And I think I said roll call. If not, I would like a roll call.
You did, Senator Isaacson. Roll call was granted. Additional discussion on the A8 amendment? Seeing none, the committee legislative assistant will take the roll. Members, cameras on, please.
Connie Isaacson, A8. Chamberlain,
No.
Senator Eichhorn,
No.
Senator Uyghur,
Yes.
Senator Coleman,
No.
Senator Swedzinski,
Yes.
Senator Duckworth,
Nope.
Senator Isaacson,
Yes.
Senator Kunesh. You're muted. Senator
Yes,
Kunesh.
I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you. Senator Newman.
No.
Thank you.
There being 4 yes votes and 5 no votes, the amendment does not prevail. We are back to the underlying bill. Members, additional discussion or amendments on Senate File 960. Seeing no additional hands up, Senator Chamberlain, closing comments on your bill. And then when you're done, if you would like to make the motion to pass it, again, as you're already aware, it goes to the tax committee next.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Isaacson?
is when we pass this out, that's automatically a roll call vote, right?
Senator Isaacson, our understanding it is not automatically a roll call vote.
Request a roll call.
So thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Yes. Look, I certainly had my thoughts over the years. The priority again remains, situation and circumstantial. But there are layers to this that are reform-minded to get at a core issue. I remind people that with this proposal, the funding goes up $860 million. Plus, some people don't say we should not count the federal money, but
Senator Chamberlain, you froze up.
money that went into the system things is. Yes. Yes. I was just making final comments.
You're fine. You had froze up for a little bit. You cut out for just a moment there. Please continue.
All right. So, again, circumstantial, situational, but there are layers to this that are about reform and getting at some issues. People talk about chairs having a gavel and having a lot of power. Well, those have been around for a while. Of this $11 billion proposal, we get to play with 150 plus policy. So, and Senator Uyghur and others know, you touch that other stuff for reform, there's a lot of problems. You can't touch. I'd love to take all those other things. I was talking to some colleagues a few days ago that in 2012 and 13, I think I voted for things that probably 2012 that I think, my God, why did I do that? Because that money could be money used for formula or other things that we talk about. But people come up with ideas. Sometimes we control it, sometimes we can't, and the money gets shuffled and put on other places. And then, some of that money does get used for various things. We know that compensatory can be used for a variety of things. It's 12 different uses, but they don't track it very well. Literacy incentive aid can be used for a variety of things. And there are other funds that can be used for a variety of things, and not just for that particular issue, but the money's been put there. So there's money there. It's not allocated always that well. We have both sides, as Senator Isakson pointed out, have had their missteps in the past. A little bit different philosophy how to get there. I, for one, think that you can have great high quality education without spending $30,000 or $25,000 on a kid. We know that is the case because it's happened not only in across the country, but in this state and in this metropolitan area. You can get a high quality education for a lot less than what we're doing in some places. And for all the money we do spend, we're still suffering. And people will say, as we heard today, we need to spend more. I ask, well, how much more? Senator Isakson had an idea, put it in inflation. But if we did the inflation thing, as Senator Isakson suggested, would that get our kids up to standards for reading proficiently? Maybe, maybe not. But anyway, back to the circumstantial situational thing. Kids in school, literacy, mental health, teachers of color, equal fair funding, some reform, and empowering parents and educators, locally, individually, schools, districts, and parents. That, to me, is what we can do this session and really change the course and direction for our children in this state and improving quality and opportunities. A lot of this stuff, as mentioned, is bipartisan with support from both sides. But there's bold ideas here, as small as they might seem. They're there, and we can make significant change and significant impact. We have to have some vision and some desire to do just that. So disagree on some of the minor pieces, but overall, we do fund the state well, fund education well. Our priorities and where we put that money it's not always executed well. And I hope that this refocus and this, what we've done in this proposal, I hope a lot of these things will come forward. And in negotiations, we'll get something that will truly benefit kids in the future, years to come. So can't solve all problems in the education committee, can't solve all problems in the tax committee, but we can do our little part. And I believe this proposal will do that, improve lives and opportunities, open doors, and create hope for a lot of kids and a lot of families, and relieve districts of a lot of pressures that they don't need to have imposed upon them. So with that, Mr. Chair, members, I move that Senate File, there we go again, Senate File 960 be passed and re-referred to Senate Tax Committee.
Yeah, I can too. So the question was asked on if there was an automatic roll call on this. There is not. That's on the floor when we spend money. There's an automatic roll call. So there wouldn't have been, but Senator Uyghur did request a roll call. So the roll call is granted. So the question before us is to pass Senate File 960 as amended and be re-referred to the Senate Tax Committee. Members, cameras on, and the committee legislative assistant will take the roll.
Senator Chambers,
Yes.
Should be good now.
Senator Icorn,
Yes.
Senator Uyghur,
No.
Senator Coleman,
Yes.
Senator Swedzinski,
No.
Senator Duckworth,
Yes.
Senator Isakson,
No.
Senator Kunesh. You're muted.
No.
Senator Newman.
Yes.
Thank you. There being 5 yeses, 4 noes. The motion for video is enabled by the taxes.
There being 5 yes votes and 4 no votes, the motion does prevail and will be re-referred to the Senate Tax Committee. With that, that completes our business unless you have any other additional comments, Chair Chamberlain. With that, that completes our business. We are adjourned. Oh, Senator Uyghur?
Well, yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank staff for their
We
incredible
can't
efforts.
hear you, Senator Uyghur.
And, they have just been marvelous throughout this whole
Senator Uyghur,
process.
we're unable to hear you.
I am not.
I can
There we go. You
hear.
just
Hi,
started.
Miriam.
We can hear you now. It must have been a technical issue on our end. We are able to hear you now.
Okay. I wanted to thank staff, the nonpartisan staff, partisan staff, just everyone that's been a part of this process. Obviously there's, philosophical disagreements, but everybody's committed to the cause for education. And I appreciate everyone's willingness to discuss in a civil way these issues, the availability of especially the nonpartisan staff throughout the recent Easter break for putting together these amendments and for answering our questions. It's very much appreciated. And for all the stakeholders that have reached us, thank you as well. And this is a process. I want to reiterate that, Senator Chamberlain, we want to work with you. We want, there's areas that we agree on, and ultimately there will be a bill that will pass, and then there'll be a conference committee that will do the best it can. So may we continue to make progress. We're committed to doing that. And just on a personal note too, I wish Senator Coleman the very best in the journey she's going through right now. And you have our prayers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Senator Uyghur, and staff has always been amazing. I don't know how they do it. Somehow they do. They're never stumped. So I'm done, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And
With that, that concludes our business. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.